we're looking at the backside of Sky Harbor, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of in the middle of your screen to the right. Yeah, that's Sky Harbor, so that's looking south towards South Mountain. And
yeah, if we could take the other picture in the control room, get that close shot again, you can see, yes.
Oh, there you go. Yep, Sky Harbor, Southwest Jet just took off.
You can see the planes landing there in the background.
So this is just north of that at 40th Street and Washington, I believe.
Yes. So we do have a crew on the way to the scene. Obviously not much known at this point. Possible propane business, we're not quite sure yet, but we're working to get more information right here. Yeah, you can see the
That's
flame
definitely,
growing,
that's some kind of fuel burning, and my guess would be propane, but we'll have to see.
Oof.
You know, it's kind of when you see a propane fire, that's exactly what it looks like. So I would think that's probably what it is.
All right, we'll come back to this as soon as we learn more. Again, our crews are headed to the scene right now, so as soon as they get there, we will take them live and come back to it.
All right, when you go to a doctor, you have confidence that they know what they're doing.
So one man in Colorado was shocked when he noticed what the physician did before performing a procedure. Get this, Joshua Bowman ended up in the hospital for a skateboarding injury, okay? He says he caught the doctor Googling how to explosions of propane that are going off near their homes. Arizona Animal Welfare League, an animal shelter, is also nearby in this area. We haven't seen, not sure how many crews are on scene as far as Phoenix Fire. This is right near the airport, by the way. You can see the planes landing every so often in the background.
Yeah, this is just north of the airport, 40th Street in Washington. So people at Sky Harbor are certainly sending out pictures on social media as they're watching this from the terminal unfold, even from aircraft that are taxiing, they're sending out pictures. Not as much flame now. You wonder if they may have capped it. If it were a line, you might be able to shut down the line and stop it. But there still appears from this angle to be flames in that lower kind of left-hand corner just above the news alert on your screen. You can see there are still flames visible. And when you look at it earlier, there was no doubt it was propane because it's just shooting like a jet up into the air. It's not like a normal fire burning.
Right. And the smoke obviously visible for miles at this point. You can see it from all the highways in the area. I wonder if this is affecting landing at Sky Harbor Airport. They haven't put anything out yet on social media, but with so much smoke in the area.
Yeah, it kind of depends on where it is. And right now it looks like it's kind of blowing maybe a little northeast from the airport. That's a look up north to Camelback. So it looks like the smoke is not impeding air traffic at all. We still see planes taxiing. And so at this point, it appears operations are normal at the airport, but people around the valley could certainly see this plume of smoke.
Absolutely. We do have crews on the way to the scene, by the way. Lindsay Regis is headed there. Ellen McNamara also on her way as well. And we're working to get more information. Obviously, Phoenix Fire, they have to be pretty busy at this point trying to figure out a plan here. As soon as we know more, of course, we will let you know.
Yeah, I mean, the other problem here is you've got fire crews on one of the hottest days of the year. It was 119 earlier, a few minutes ago. And, you know, you've got to cycle crews in and out of there in about 15 or 20 minutes because they're wearing, you know, 30, 40 pounds of equipment and gear and turnouts. And it's a nasty job on a day like this. So they're going to have to hydrate these crews and make sure they can get on it. The only way to stop this, you would think, is to cap the source. Propane's going to eventually burn itself out if it's tanks. If it's a line, they've just got to stop it. They've got to cut the line off.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is that with propane, once you eliminate the fuel source,
yeah, you're good.
It starts to go out. So that would be good news. You can see the camera kind of moving around there. It might be a bit windy in the area. I don't know the wind speeds at this point, but with no embers flying or anything like that, it wouldn't be too much of a factor. So
yeah, trees are moving a little bit, not a lot, and smoke looks to be moving. That picture looking at South Mountain in the background. So this is looking south at 40th Street in Washington. There we go again.
yeah, it's still going.
There may be tanks there that are going up.
I believe this might be a propane storage facility. So there's probably several tanks being held here.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's my guess.
You could have tanks of all kinds of different sizes.
Yeah.
We'll have to find out later what was going up, but it's certainly this fire. The propane creates problems because, of course, the tanks can explode.
Right.
And it's not easy to put out. So
It's not like you can just cut the gas line and turn it off.
yeah, if that's what it is, if it's a collection of tanks out there, that's a
Right.
little more difficult.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what Phoenix Fire, what their plan of attack would be on something like this, but we're working to get in touch with them as well. So hopefully the chief can let us know how they plan to conquer this.
Yeah, I think the only thing right now would be structure protection, keeping everything around it safe. And they might be able to put foam on it. Not sure if that would be helpful. But propane, that's pretty nasty to try to knock that down. It may have to burn itself out and just try to protect everything around it.
Yeah, so just be aware, 40th Street and Washington is where this is happening right now. A propane business, we believe it's a storage facility, possible propane tanks being held there. So we're keeping our eye on this, and we do have multiple crews headed to the scene to try and get an update for us on what's occurring. But as soon as we know more, we will let you know, of course.
Yeah, and again, if you're just joining us, this is 40th Street in Washington. This has been burning for about 15 minutes. That's a rough guess that we first got, that we were alerted to this. And again, you see pockets of flame from time to time moving from one side to the other. It looks as if individual tanks might be going up. It's hard to see it from that angle. But Sky Harbor traffic seems to be okay right now. You can see what appears to be, is that a ladder, a fire ladder right there?
Oh yeah, that
on the
looks like it is.
right side of the screen. There we go.
There they go with
okay.
the hoses, okay.
All right, and now they're putting water on it. So that answers that question. They're gonna go with water and we'll see what else. But on a nasty day in Phoenix, it hit 119. Now you've got a fire just north of the airport. In some pretty nasty conditions today.
Not ideal. In this area, just to kind of give you a good idea of what's around here. There's a lot of parking facilities for the airport. Again, 40th Street in Washington is where this is happening right now. The Arizona Animal Welfare League has a vet clinic in this area as well. So several businesses, an industrial area, again, and we do believe this might be a propane storage facility that's on fire.
We've got I don't know if we could take Storyteller just to take a look. We can take it and kind of give you a little lay of the land here. Let's see if we get a picture of it. Okay.
Yeah, it's up.
Okay, Storyteller's up. So you can see the runways at Sky Harbor. And this gives you a sense of where it's burning. So it's kind of in the northeast corner, just northeast of Sky Harbor Airport, right? Parallel to the runway on the east side.
And the smoke doesn't seem to be much of an issue for the airport.
I don't think so.
It's blowing away from the runways.
Although, you can see there are planes moving out there. We've got a picture of that. Planes are moving on the tarmac and taxiing out, or at least they've landed. And I don't think it's impeding air traffic because the smoke appears to be blowing northeast. So that would be northeast of the airport.
We've got a ladder truck here working this fire. I don't see any other ones. I wonder if they're trying to get another one up at this point to try and help put out these flames.
Yeah, is Mark wired up? Mark?
Yeah, you guys, we've been...
Not yet. Okay, we're going to get Mark kind of in the queue here because Mark has spent some time with Phoenix Fire. Okay, Mark, this is kind of a tricky one because propane, I don't really know, except to let it burn out, how you fight that.
Well, that's usually how they do it, almost like a natural gas fire, where they have to let it bleed off.
Yeah.
I don't think you're on, Mike.
Do we have Mark?
Well...
There you go.
Okay, you got me now? Sorry.
I think so.
Yeah, they normally have to let it bleed off, so
They're coding you. I think that's what's happening. In the meantime...
Yes, we'll talk like this. They normally have to let it bleed off in a situation like this, so we're not sure what they're exactly going to do, but we were talking about this area, and it is right next to the Arizona Animal Welfare League vet clinic. It is just to the west of that. I mean, literally right next door.
Yeah.
And then just to the northeast of this is a substation for APS. It's the 40th Place substation, so it's blowing right toward that area. We don't know if any of the flames will be reaching that spot, but you can be sure that APS is keeping an eye on that as well for power to this area where this is happening.
Yeah.
That would be terrible on a day like this.
On a day like this for sure. And the location of this, where it comes back to from Phoenix Fire, is called Bill's Propane. And that it looks like a smaller business, but obviously we could see from some aerial shots that were taken from Google Earth, basically, there are a bunch of propane tanks in the back. So perhaps that's what we're seeing.
Oh, there are.
Exploding,
so
yes.
It's individual tanks.
It looked, yes, from the overhead view, it looked like individual tanks, but there could be more of a propane farm here as well, where they fill those tanks, but we're still working to get more information on
Yeah, that makes sense because we saw a series of different explosions and fire going up early on in this. So that would indicate you've got separate individual tanks, some of them large, some of them maybe small, but we saw a couple of bursts that were pretty impressive. There you get a view from South Mountain looking north, that's Camelback. The foreground is Sky Harbor, obviously, so that fire again burning north of the runways by a few blocks. It's not that far, but it's there. Mark?
Okay, Mark has more on the map.
Yeah, we're just taking a look and kind of orient everybody. We've been showing this where that fire is burning right here, again, north of the airport. And this is in this area right here is where that fire is burning at that Bill's Propane location. And then the location of the APS substation is just right in this area, just to the northwest of that, or northeast rather, of that. And there's mostly industrial businesses in this area, not a lot, if any, residential neighborhoods at all in that area. And again, so this part right now burning away from the airport, as we've been seeing. But the real concern is how much propane is left in these tanks. We've seen some of the trees right behind this building, not a lot, but a few of them have also caught fire. And Christina, you mentioned it earlier, potential for any embers getting caught up in this and then blowing towards the northeast area rather as well.
Right. I wonder with a propane fire like this, where you have those it's a storage facility, one would presume. That's what we think at this point. So they're filled with propane, we think, these tanks. Do they just kind of get around it? And at this point, you can't go in and stop that from happening. Once they catch fire, it's going to explode. So do you kind of just suppress?
You may be protecting structures around it, like some of the
yeah.
buildings Mark described. Make sure nothing else catches fire. Try to limit it to that area and let it burn out.
And I don't know, John or Christina, if they've got foam or anything that they could put on top of that, or if they probably are just going to make the estimation of how much risk is to the other buildings.
Right.
And then if not, yeah, as you mentioned, just kind of keep an eye on it and watch it and suppress it as much, or pour water on the neighboring buildings. There was a photo from Animal Welfare League which showed the flames and the smoke pretty close by.
They are right
within,
there.
Yeah, maybe then 30, 40 feet.
You got to get those people out of there. You brought up a really good point, Mark, is when you've got these propane tanks and they blow up, that can send shrapnel all over the place. So the firefighters have to back off.
Absolutely.
They got to get people out of there somehow, some way. Because that's like a bomb going off.
Yeah, this isn't safe for them either. This is a dangerous situation for all involved. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Again, we have crews on the way to the scene. Lindsay Regis, Ellen McNamara, they're on their way there, and we'll get back to this as soon as we come back in a few minutes.
Times maybe.
Welcome back, covering breaking news out of 40th Street in Washington, where we've got a propane tanker yard that is burning, and propane tanks are going off, cooking and exploding. We've seen big balls of flame and smoke in this area. This is just north of Sky Harbor Airport, a little north and east. And again, people from around the valley will certainly see this smoke. We understand the police are evacuating a mile radius around the business, trying to get people out of there. But you can expect that firefighters are worried about exploding propane tanks, sending shrapnel, shards of metal out. It's like a bomb going off. You got to be extremely careful. The firefighters have to be careful. They've got to get people out of that area to make sure they're not hurt. And at the same time, fire crews, and you can see the ladder truck working it from the air, trying to make sure that this doesn't catch anything else on fire.
Yeah, for a moment there, we saw that the ADOT camera that we're looking at here was shaking around a little bit. So you don't want any exploding shrapnel to land in the wrong place with these trees in the area and things like that to help spread that fire. We wouldn't want that. But this is a heavily industrial area, lots of businesses here and no neighborhoods, so no homes here. But there is a vet clinic just next door to where this fire is burning, the Animal Welfare League. And from what I can see on social media, it appears that someone who is there says the animals are safe so far. So not sure if they've been evacuated at this point. One would assume that maybe they have, because that would be the safest option. But at this point, things seem to be okay there. We're working to get more information on that as well. But you can see the ladder truck from Phoenix Fire there on the right-hand side of your screen, and they are working this, but we've seen several explosions in in recent minutes. There's one right there. So if this is a storage facility for propane tanks, it could be burning for a while.
Yeah, and as the fire continues, these tanks get wickedly hot, they expand with the heat, and they blow up. So this is a problem, and they've got to get a handle on it somehow, some way. This shot from South Mountain looking north, that's Camelback. You see in the foreground Sky Harbor, where it appears air traffic is going unimpeded. They're not having any problem because the smoke has not drifted over the runway. It doesn't seem to be impeding air traffic at all. You're getting a wide shot now. Again, this is right along the freeway, and I'm sure people are catching a view of this as they're driving by going, what the heck is going on over there? But on a nasty, hot day, 119 in the valley earlier today, we hit 119 for a brief period. This is not a time to be involved in a firefight. This is nasty stuff.
Yeah, man, on such a hot day, and obviously you don't want this to be happening. We don't want to cover any fires at this point, but especially you think about those fire crews that are out there with all the heavy gear and equipment, and they're working hard to get this under control, and not the best circumstances for that.
You know, it seems the smoke has eased a little bit since we first went on the air with this at about 10 minutes to 5. So it's been burning for almost 30 minutes now, at least.
Yeah, guys, if we can go back to that ADOT shot, we can take a look at that again. It's a bit of a closer image to try and see. Yeah, I do want to say that we saw several explosions when we first got on this at the end of the 4 o'clock show, so maybe about 20 minutes ago or so, and there were several more explosions. So maybe this is burning itself out. Maybe there's not much more. Many more.
Yeah, let's look at some of the video from earlier of some of these tanks cooking off. There was one of the big explosions. You can see it was frankly worse early on. It's gotten a little better.
Yeah. Yeah, things definitely look better now.
But you can see by the activity, that the flame activity, that is not like a house fire. You can tell it's some type of fuel. And in this case, we believe it's propane.
Yeah, so again, this is a propane business, and we're working to get more information on that. But Mark Martinez is over at the map right now, and he has a better idea of where this is happening.
Yeah, and you guys, you make a great point. When we see things like a house fire or a mobile home fire, any kind of thing like that, we're normally by this time seeing white smoke after they start pouring all of that water on it. We are still seeing a lot of black smoke coming from this as that propane continues to burn. Coming from this business right here that is located north of Washington and just to the west of 40th Street, a place called Bill's Propane Service. And it looks like from an overhead view, they have big propane trucks and propane canisters and things of that nature in a primarily industrial area. As you can see here, this is just north of Sky Harbor Airport. One thing to point out is over in this area right here, just to the northeast of it, actually almost due east of it, that is an APS substation called the 40th Place substation. Now, we haven't heard any word yet from APS of any potential outages in that area, but you can be certain they're keeping an eye on it, especially on a day like, John, you mentioned, we're approaching, well, we are at 118 degrees right now, so they can't be risking losing power into this area. And we also know that right next to it, literally within feet, is the Animal Welfare League's vet clinic. We tried to get a hold of them. Nobody answered the phone, but from some views we saw from some people who were posting on social media, those flames and the smoke were coming way too close for comfort. So we don't know about any evacuations at this point, but we do know for certain if you're in that building, it's an ominous sight to be seeing all of that black smoke billowing right from next door. As far as other areas in this, other businesses in this area, we don't know of any evacuations immediately, but as those explosions are going off, you can bet if you were anywhere near this, you'd want to get about as far away from it as you can. We're also getting some great video on, from viewers that we're working to get on the air for you that is showing a lot of the explosions from buildings nearby. So a lot of people are seeing this from miles around. It is no surprise as this is such a busy part of the valley, you guys.
Yeah, the explosions have eased, which is good news, and you can see this shot from the ground now. Yeah, they're pouring water on, it looks like a bunch of propane tanks, yes. I didn't even think about this. You've got airport parking down in that area. Mark, a little bit more about the substation. This is an SRP substation down in that area?
Actually, it appears to be APS from what we're understanding. Yeah, and it is a substation right along the canal. And so that is obviously a concern, but it looks to be at a safe enough distance as long as nothing were to carry over. But yeah, look at all of the tanks, and you see all those tanks lined up there along that chain link fence.
The kinds you use in your grill, they distribute them out, and people hook up their gas grills to these propane tanks. That's the kind of propane tank we're looking at. And then there appear to be bigger ones in the back as well that probably fuel that they use to fuel those tanks, and those went up.
I mean, it looks like it might be a slow leak coming from these tanks, doesn't it? Because as soon as they put the water on it, it shoots, the flames come back.
Yeah, this is why they're so tough to fight.
Yeah, and you're getting the look at the back of what appears to be either a propane truck or a big propane canister, that round object that you see there, and that could be, Christina, what we're talking about as far as filling up these tanks with a main source of propane, which is super concerning if there is a lot more propane in this to burn.
It looks like they're pushing, what are they doing here, crews?
They look like they're trying to bring a truck in. They're trying to signal a truck in.
And we're working to get Phoenix Fire on the phone with us to kind of explain what's going on here, but obviously they're a little busy. Very busy right now, yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to read the sign there.
It's student parking. It says no permit required.
Yeah, the Brelo something center.
Oh, that's the Animal Welfare League, John.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, that's one of the buildings there.
Okay.
Okay, we'll take a live look at from our tower camera here, give you a better idea of how far the smoke is spreading across the valley if we can. So I will say the smoke has dissipated just a bit since we first started covering this about 30 minutes ago now. So it seems that the flames aren't as bad at this point. They're starting to work this fire and put water on it, so that's the good news. I believe we have Lindsay Regis, who's on the ground there at the scene, gathering more information. If we could go to her next and get some more about what she knows at this point. Hey, Lindsay.
There she is. Yep.
Yeah. Hey guys, yeah, we just got on scene. You can see this huge black plume of smoke. Now, when we parked, we just heard an explosion, and then we just saw a bunch of fire. I believe it's a propane canister that blew up, and it looks like it's happening several times. I just got here, I spoke with someone, they said they have video of it, so we're gonna get to that soon. And he says it's just happening over and over again. So I don't know how much fuel is inside there, but it looks like there is a lot because he's just hearing several explosions. You can see fire crews trying to put this fire out. We're unsure how long it's going to go. Now, we are on scene. Several roads are blocked. We're supposed to avoid this area. You do not want to be in this area at this time. Cars are turning around. We're just hearing several more explosions. Again, not sure. You can see another plume of smoke that just popped up. It's just continuing. I don't know if this was worse earlier, but it is a very bad situation. Not something you want to be around right now.
Yeah, Lindsay,
guys, I'll send it back to you.
So people in this area, various people who live maybe nearby or work nearby, they've reported hearing the explosions. Or have you heard anything since you've been there? Can you hear these explosions happening?
Yes, I heard that explosion right when we parked. I said, "What's that?" And I turned to someone and he said, "Something's exploding over there. I have video of it. It's just been happening for the past few minutes." He's been hearing that over and over again.
Take a look behind that fire truck that just pulled out. You've got ladder 4, I believe, that is getting ready to deploy. They're going to put another guy in the bucket and pour more water on this fire. Again, it's a series of propane tanks at a propane storage yard, and they keep cooking off and exploding and creating more fire, more smoke. And now the smoke looks like it's getting dense again because there may be something else on fire back there. That doesn't look like propane burning. That looks like a structure burning to me.
That may have been an ember that got caught in the wind and landed somewhere and it ignited. We just don't know at this point. But Lindsay, there's also a vet clinic in this area, and I know you just got there, so maybe you're unaware at this point, but people are concerned about the pets.
Yeah.
The Animal Welfare League, they have a vet clinic right there, and so many are wondering if those animals are being evacuated. Have you noticed any rescue crews there?
We're on the other side of it, so I can't tell. I'm hoping they are evacuating because just of how close it is to that building. Just while you guys were talking, I heard 3 more explosions. It looks like the building is on fire now.
Yeah, exactly.
I see some fire. You guys may have a better view of that, but it looks like the building is on fire now.
Yeah, we see it.
I'm hearing fire alarms from that building as well.
Yeah, you could tell the smoke is just different, and the fire properties are different than when it was propane burning. You could tell that this is a kind of smoke coming from, you know, something combustible that's burning, and it's not fuel. And it's that building, unfortunately. And this is a problem. When this started, you know, it's in an area, it's an industrial area, but there are businesses and other things around there that can burn, and that's what I'm sure Phoenix Fire is worried about.
Yeah, I'm kind of lost as to where this is. Is this building that's now on fire, is this closer to the airport runways or is this farther away?
Lindsay, give us your location. Are you south of the fire? Just a little bit south toward the airport?
I am on East Van Buren Street and North 40th Street, west of it. And I can just see, I see about maybe a dozen fire trucks. I know Phoenix Fire is here, of course, and I believe we have Tempe Fire Department here as well trying to put out this fire. I see another hose going as well.
I saw an APS truck there as well. Are they worried about power?
I haven't heard anything about power yet, but we will check on that in just a moment. We'll go get more details.
Yeah, you've got lines there in our shot that we're seeing, Lindsay. You can see power lines. So that's obviously a concern. They may have to shut power down in that area.
Yes.
That'll be very unpleasant for a lot of people on a day that hit 119.
Yeah, the guy I was talking to just a minute ago, he says he lives in this area, but he can't even get to it right now because all of these streets are blocked off. I could imagine he probably doesn't have electricity right now.
Yeah, that's really not a good scene on a day like this. We obviously don't know, and it will take time to sort out what touched off this fire. But you've got propane in a storage yard on a day that hits 119. You can imagine the possibilities. You know, any kind of, I mean, these tanks have to get so hot in that heat. Well, you all know. I mean, this is just the way it is when it's this warm.
Wow, yeah. It does make you wonder like how the fire started over there, because this is kind of across the way. It looks like it's across a parking lot from where that propane business is. So it makes you wonder how this happened.
Yeah. So
let's check in for a minute with Ellen McNamara, who just arrived at the scene. Ellen, what's your story and what's the vantage point? Where are you?
Yeah, hey John and Christina. So we're just on the east side, the northeast side of the fire, basically 41st. And what we have been hearing are the continuing of those explosions that y'all have been talking about. They are continuing at this hour. And when you talked about the Arizona Animal Welfare League, what we're seeing is the smoke just continuing to spread east. And that's exactly where the Arizona Animal Welfare League building is, which is why so many people are concerned. Now, Bill's propane service has been around here in the valley for about 40 years. So a lot of people who live here, who work here, they know a lot about it. Maximo, I have him here. He's kind of watching and seeing what's going on. Maximo, you know this area very well. Tell me about what is impacted behind us.
Right here is the Gateway College, and also across the streets, the restaurant Speedy's and the Humane Society. And then they just got done building another restaurant right next to it, so that's all brand new.
Why'd you come out here to look at this?
I could see the flames from down the street from my house, so I wanted to see if the college was on fire or something, and just to be nosy.
And how long have you lived in this area, been around here?
About 15 years.
So you know it pretty well. I mean, you know that restaurant.
Yeah,
Do you go to Speedy's too?
Yeah, I go to Speedy's, a nice worker here at the hotel and stuff. Yeah.
What are your thoughts when you're watching this and you know that those animals are very close and, all this is just going up in flames?
I hope they got the animals out safe, and then hope the guy has insurance.
Yeah, it's going to be a big mess. And the other thing too, guys, of course, we're talking about is just the heat. I mean, it's 119 degrees. We have been kept back significantly. We tried to get through here on 40th. It was too early when we arrived. Phoenix police pushing us back. There's just not a media staging area at this point because it's pretty early still on this firefight. It started just about 5 o'clock and it is, again, continuing to burn. And when you have those propane tanks there and the fire, the wind spreading east, well, more stuff is just going to keep on going up. So we're going to keep it right here. We're in communication, of course, with the fire department. We know that they're extremely busy right now. We can see units going by. We can hear them going by. They are continuing to send more manpower here to fight these flames. And you can see PD behind me. They're directing traffic. Brian Kay, the photographer who's with me, we were driving on the I-10 out of downtown. And right when we got through the tunnel, it was like wham. You could just start seeing the smoke rising through the sky. So anyone who's driving right now here in the valley is seeing the smoke and it's not going down. So we can see it is continuing to blow east. And while the ladder truck is making a little bit of progress, it's not going to be an easy job to get this thing under control. I don't know if you guys have heard anything from the Arizona Animal Welfare League, if they've sent out anything, but that's a big concern for a lot of people in this area. So we're going to check in with them too.
Okay.
And hopefully they have some good news because that's a big concern, guys.
Ellen, people may be wondering at home, why can't we get a good aerial picture of this? Skyfox can't fly because it's too hot.
Right.
Not enough lift.
Yep.
With the air like it is today. We saw this when it hit 122 back in June of 90. They couldn't take off planes from Sky Harbor because they didn't have a manual for that kind of temperature, and flying in that temperature, they since have updated that. But for the chopper, it's kind of dicey when it gets this hot. So Skyfox is not going to launch for safety reasons. What we're seeing here, though, I think is a big propane tank that is bleeding off, and that's what's on fire right now. That's what we see in this shot. That's not just a small propane tank, that's a big feeder tank, a storage tank that's bleeding off and burning.
Well, yeah, and you think about the business too. I mean, if it's a propane service, that's where people go and they fill up their small little propane tanks, right? So you have to have a big tank to fill that supply. And
right.
So that's what we're seeing. That's what you guys, our viewers, are obviously seeing right now. So we just saw another unit go by. They're responding. And when you were talking about John, Skyfox, we had a report earlier in the week about small planes having difficulty, taking off.
Right.
We did get an update from Sky Harbor, and Sky Harbor, they're still able to take off at this point. We've seen a few planes kind of going back and forth, but that's also because the smoke is pretty much blowing directly east, and the airport is just south of this. So that is something, though, that we're going to continue to watch, because if the wind does change, that could impact the airport a little bit more.
Right.
Can you tell me, Ellen, can you see with your vantage point how many ladders are up shooting water cannon on this? Can you tell?
So from my vantage point, I'm just seeing one, but again, we're not as close to 40th Street as I would like to be. We're just at 41st, and 40th has maybe a little bit better of a vantage point, 40th and Washington. So we can just see one from where we are. We can certainly smell the smoke, though, because it's coming on to us right now. But they continue to send more trucks and other units. It's not just Phoenix Fire responding. We got other units too, and rightfully so, because they're going to need a lot of help.
Yeah, Ellen, we're going to let you go for a second. You want to gather some more information. I know you just got there a short while ago. Maybe if you could find out the Animal Welfare League, if anyone's coming in to rescue those animals or anything like that, please let us know. And in the meantime, we're going to check in with Lindsay Regis. Again, she's also on the scene. She has a different vantage point. Lindsay, what do you know at this point?
Take a look at that fire. That's been going for about 15 seconds now. We just heard a huge explosion, and that's the result of it. And I'm stepping over to the side. I can see smaller fires right next to it. So fire crew has a big fire to put out right now, and when we were talking about that building, I'm looking at it now. Unfortunately, it did catch on fire. It looks like it's taking over more of the building. Before it was just in the back, it looks like it came to the front. Again, huge explosion. That's been going on, I would say, for the past 30 seconds now.
It looks like the animal building, the animal welfare building.
That's behind this.
Yeah.
Are they attached, Lindsay? Can you tell?
I cannot tell from this vantage point. I'll try to hop on Google and see
They
if I
look
can
like they're
see if they're
okay right
attached
now,
that way
actually.
in a second.
Yeah, they look like they're
That's
okay
great.
right now.
That's great news. I'm really hoping that those animals are being evacuated. Hopefully they're evacuated way before this explosion just got worse and worse. Really, we're hearing this every few minutes. You'll hear this, you see it, it's still going.
I do want to mention anecdotally on social media, as I've been seeing some posts from people that are in the area, someone who appeared to be at the animal shelter there, the vet clinic, did mention that the animals were okay. Now that was about 20 minutes ago, so I'm not sure if they are being evacuated at this point, but as of that last update from somebody who appeared to be there, they seem to be okay. So that is good news.
Yeah, and sadly, you may have to get people out of the area, and that becomes the first concern. They may not have had time to try to get animals out of there, so we don't know. We've got to find out. I don't know how you'd even begin to do that when they're trying to evacuate people. Right. That's a tall order. Mark Martinez is with us. Mark, I don't see a lot of options to put this out except let it burn.
That's what we were talking about. It looks to me like they're going to perhaps treat this like they do when we see this with a natural gas break, when a main breaks and catches fire. What we can't tell right now is with this propane that we see burning off, if this is all just one big tank that is burning off. I don't know if they would have a main line that is coming from somewhere feeding that tank.
Yeah, it looks like tanks to me, except that one plume, maybe there is a main line that feeds these guys.
I mean, that's pretty consistent, that flame right
Yeah, and that's what makes me think it could be a main line that they use to feed these. And as far as shutting that off, I'm not sure what their options would be. I did notice also, if you guys saw this in Ellen's live shot, it looked like APS had a ladder up to one of the power poles.
I saw their truck.
Yeah, it looked like a bucket, cherry picker kind of bucket up on one of the poles. So I'm not sure if they're working to shut off power that way. We did see that they were on scene and that there is an APS substation right behind this. So they're involved with this as well. We got a lot of crews out here right now.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. If that were a line, you would have thought, I mean, this is going on now for almost not
about
quite
an hour, close
almost.
just before 5 o'clock.
That Southwest Gas would have been able to shut that main line off.
Yeah.
That would be the agency that would be involved, probably in a gas line. Obviously, you would think.
We keep mentioning
line, I don't know.
Keep mentioning with this intense heat that we're seeing out here, the fire crews out here, and we're watching the engineer over there on the right up on top trying to manage all the water flow through this ladder truck where, John, I believe you were mentioning they can do about 5,000 gallons, I believe, per minute.
Yeah, they can fill your backyard pool in a couple of minutes.
And that's really all they can do right now. You can't put, foam's not going to do anything.
Right.
Yeah, I think, speaking of propane, I don't think Southwest would have anything to do with that. Who would shut off a propane feeder line?
Yeah, that's something
I'm not sure who'd be responsible.
But they've got at least 3 ladder trucks out there pouring water on this. They call this a surround and drown type of operation. Where
right, there's
that's all
4.
You can really do is just
we saw 4 get up and get going here a couple of minutes ago. So now they're pouring just immense amounts of water on this.
Yeah.
Maybe more for structure protection.
And we were talking about the distance between Bill's Propane Service and the Animal Welfare League, and from an overhead view, it looks to be a pretty, I don't want to say safe distance, but at least about 50 feet, 50 to maybe 80 feet. So it's not directly next door, but it's still close enough that if anything else catches fire and starts to spread, it would be a concern.
And we heard from that gentleman who spoke to Ellen a short time ago. He said he lives nearby, but there's no homes in this direct vicinity. So there are some homes, it appears, that are several streets away, and those people they live over there, but nobody directly right here. This is very industrial, so you got to hope that people were not working inside these buildings when this happened.
And interesting to see what these fire crews or these firefighters here are going to do right now. I don't think they're going to make entry into the building because it is still obviously on fire, but they're going up to that door.
It looks like they're opening that.
They may want to make sure that there's nobody in there. I'm not sure. They're going to break in and make sure nobody's trapped in there.
A lot of times with a fire like this, we do not see fire crews go inside because it's simply too dangerous.
Right.
I mean, they'll maybe do an initial search for life, but they can't stay in.
Let's take a look at some viewer video that we are now efforting and try to show you some of the viewer video. Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is from earlier. Again, this started just after or just before 5 o'clock. So this is from earlier when this just occurred.
That almost looks like a main line, doesn't it?
It does. With the force that it's coming out, yeah, that is an intense amount of gas coming through that line.
Look how high the flames are.
And then you've got all of those tanks, the loose propane tanks in that yard. That's a main line, Mark. That is not coming out of a truck. That's a main line.
And you're seeing it down to the right as well in this image, just behind that white truck. So it looks like this could be a bigger break than we first thought.
Yeah, and those are probably propane, the smaller propane tanks cooking off.
Yeah.
That we see exploding because of the heat.
This is from a building. The woman who took this, she was across the street at a higher vantage point, and she was talking about some vehicles for the school. So I don't know if cars were also catching fire, but as we heard, there was a school nearby, and there was a parking for students also in a lot here. So
look how close to that building the animal welfare. I mean, if this were blowing in their direction, they'd be in big trouble.
Oh man, that is quite a fire. That's got to be a main propane line that's going up. It has to be.
Is it possible that it's a combo of two? Maybe there was a main gas line in the area that was, cut or something like that?
Yeah, I mean,
we haven't seen this kind of fire as far as this amount of gas, whatever type of gas it may be, either natural, propane, both, perhaps, something like this in quite a long time. I mean, and that's perhaps why it's such a challenge for the fire crews. I know they train so well, but something like this, they know what they're doing, but with this amount of flame and smoke coming out of it, it is a challenge.
Yeah, and fuel to feed it. I mean, look at that plume coming up. That just speaks that they've got a main line there. And still going.
This is that image now. What we were just seeing was right when it started. So you can see it has, really died down, but still a lot of flame and fuel.
We want to check back in with Ellen McNamara. Again, she's on the ground just a couple blocks from where this is happening, or she was. Ellen, are you still in the same spot? Tell us what you know.
Yeah, we're just in the same spot, guys. So we're just east of where this fire is at Bill's Propane Service. We're at 41st and Van Buren, and the smoke is just coming on us right now. We're kind of breathing it in. That's okay, though. So what we have seen is we have police behind. Everyone's being rerouted off of Van Buren. We have some looky-loos in the area to be expected, but some people are trying to get through on Van Buren, and they're just not allowed at this point. We just saw another ladder truck from Tempe Fire, so they're bringing in more help to fight these flames. When you guys talked about how the flames seem to have gone down a little bit, what we have witnessed is that they are going down a little bit, but then we'll hear an explosion and then more smoke starts to rise once again. So that's really kind of the battle that the fire crews are facing. Just hearing some more there, some more explosions going off. It's a fascinating scene though, from where I'm at, because we just can see a plane taking off in the distance. We can see the control tower as well off in the distance, and then all this smoke here from this fire. The good news again is that we are hearing that the Arizona Animal Welfare League at this point is okay. Brian Kay and I, so Brian's the photographer who's showing you what we are seeing from our point. We're going to be heading to the media staging area. That's going to be over at 40th Street. So we're heading there to get more information from the public information officer with Phoenix Fire, and they're going to kind of fill us in on what's going on, who's impacted, how all those animals are doing. A lot of viewers concerned. I've been talking to some folks in this area who know that area very well. They go to Speedy's restaurant. They know the animals. They also know the business. They said this business has been here for about 40 years. Wow. Bill's Propane Service, so it's really well known in this community. A lot of concern, of course, for the owner and everyone who's impacted. But right now, they just got to get this thing under control, and it's about 118 degrees outside, which is not helping any. Right. So, guys, we're going to go to the media staging area right now. We'll break down, and we'll bring you some more information when we get there.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out if that structure, thank you, Ellen. I'm trying to figure out if the structure that we see on fire is that Sundance Airport parking structure. Is that where people, or is it something else?
The sign says something about the shuttle service, so
I think that is because it's to the left of where the main fire is. And in the video that the viewer took from the higher angle, she was mentioning the cars that may be parked there for people.
Are there cars on fire also?
I couldn't see it from her video, just too many flames, but she was specifically mentioning cars, which may be to the left. I'm not sure. This is not far. Well, there's cars there, okay.
Yeah.
And this is not far from the 40th Street drop-off for the airport.
Right.
For the
You've got more on that.
SkyTrain.
Well, the light rail's being affected by this as well because there's a station right there. So it's suspended. Service is suspended at the 44th Street Washington station. That's right in this area. So obviously that is suspended at this time. They say eastbound trains can only travel to 38th Street, Washington Station.
Look at this.
That building's a loss. Look at the flames coming right through the front door.
Why do you think they opened that door there? Maybe to vent it? Or
I don't know.
I think to vent it, And we could see some cars in that parking lot. And so if these cars start catching on fire, this is going to get even worse.
Look at the plane landing. Just they're rolling it in at Sky Harbor. No effect to the airport.
And you know, we're going to be seeing some pictures on social media from planes coming in, from passengers.
Of course,
you could see this for miles around, and this is your welcome to Phoenix.
Well, welcome to Phoenix. It's 119, plus we got a huge fire burning near the airport.
Yeah.
Just so that you get your vantage point, obviously South Mountain, you see the towers there. So the smoke is blowing northeast, still continues to blow in from the winds blowing from the southwest. The smoke is blowing northeast. That's kind of a typical pattern. And, you know, so we can check in with Corey. I think Corey's in the Weather Center.
I think he's putting a mic on.
With more on the winds. Corey?
Yeah, and boy, they're pretty strong at the moment. You know, usually by the time the sun sets, they'll start to diminish. But yeah, if you're anywhere in the East Valley, if you're in Mesa or Tempe or south parts of Scottsdale, you're smelling this for sure. And although it's not like a house fire that's sending up such enormous clouds of smoke at the moment, we were at my live shot earlier. We were right around Central and Encanto, and watching that smoke. It seemed to be diminishing a bit. Well, you guys would know more than I about that. But anyway, it looks like this pattern that you're seeing now, a pretty strong west to easterly flow, is going to continue for at least another 2 hours. So keep that in mind if you're if you're anywhere in the path of that smoke, you may not be seeing much relief.
It's a small thing, but where do they put the car keys for this place, for this lot? Are all the car keys for these cars in that building?
I would
They're gone.
bet they are, yeah.
Can you imagine that nightmare coming home to this? Your car's parked in that lot, and this has been happening?
Well, can you imagine if any of these are electric vehicles? Because we know the problem that they pose once they catch fire.
There have got to be some there.
I mean.
Yeah. I mean, their immediate problem is trying to put out this propane leak that we don't know the source of it.
Wow,
but,
look at the fire inside that building.
Yeah, that fire, I think that building is completely gone. Well, we're gonna have some stories after this is over about all of this. Look at that.
That is a gone.
Yeah, this building, you guys, it is the Sundance Airport parking, and yeah, this is where people will park the car and take that shuttle either to the airport or to the 40th Street SkyTrain station.
It's a self-parking area.
Yes.
So, I mean, the cars are parked in the back behind the building in that lot, as you saw there. And
self-parking?
Yeah, self-parking.
Well, then they might have their key.
Yeah, they
that
might.
would be good, because in that building, they're going to be out of luck.
And for viewers who are just joining, we mentioned, John and Christina, that Skyfox would normally be showing us this view from the air so we could get maybe a perspective on how many cars were in the lot, but it's too hot right now at 118 degrees for Skyfox to get up in the air. And so we're seeing these images from the ground, which are just still unbelievable, and the ADOC camera here at a slightly elevated angle.
We don't see as much fire right now. We still see a lot of smoke, but the vantage point of the fire is like on the other side of that smoke. It's the flip side of this image. There you go. So now we see, and it's really that building right now. I don't know if we've got another shot of the actual propane leak.
Yeah, let's go to Lindsay. Lindsay Regis, she's right in that parking lot where the propane business is, so she can give us a better vantage point from there and a better update. Lindsay, what do you know?
Yeah, guys, so I see both of the fires. The propane tank is still going. That's been going on since the last time I spoke with you guys. And now just for about a minute, 2 minutes now, you can see the flames coming through the front of this building. It just looks like it's completely destroyed. So I saw firefighters try to break open those doors, break open those windows, possibly to just let that heat out. But now we're just seeing it filled with fire. And to your question, it looks like the Sundance airport parking. I'm not too sure if any cars are on fire right now. I can't really see that from my point of view, but I am hearing some explosions, and you can see just the fire going over those cars right there as that building just burns.
Wow, Lindsay, yeah, this is incredible. I mean, we were just talking to, there's APS. You got power lines in this area. That building, obviously, where that airport parking, self-parking, that's a goner. That's a total loss, that building right there. But yeah, these cars are they're parked right behind this building. And again, it's self-parking, so 24-hour parking there for the airport. I just wonder, the flames are blowing in that direction, so it's not
Got
great.
these cars full of gas in the tanks.
Yeah.
Perhaps electric vehicles in there as well, Christina.
Which we know can burn for weeks.
And they're going to be in the same problem that they have been dealing with this entire time. There's nothing they can really do to put that out.
Yeah, Mark, we've been on the air now with this for about an hour. I think the call probably came in earlier than that. I'm guessing it started around 45.
Yeah,
4:45.
I first saw it in the newsroom on the ADOT camera right around that time, maybe 4:40-ish. But it started we looked over and you could see the black smoke, and then all of a sudden explosion after explosion. And we didn't at that point know exactly what it was.
Right.
And then now seeing these viewer videos that people were much closer than we could see.
Let's show a couple of those, if we can re-rack a couple of the viewer videos, which give you maybe the best pictures. That looks like a main line leak to me.
It's hard to tell with that main flame that we see in the middle, that bright orange color. I don't know how many feet around that is, but it looks to be at least 8 or 10, as it's going straight up in the air.
We know it's a propane business and they have tanks there, but I wonder, is there a natural gas line in the area as well? Is it possible that the propane just made this work?
And look at the building to the left. That's the one that's now gone, you guys. That's the Sundance parking.
Yeah.
And look at the cars to the left as that fire engine comes around the corner. Those are vehicles we can't even see right now because of all that black smoke. Those awnings, the red awnings that we were just watching burn. That's Sundance.
Yeah, this was quite a fire. We did not appreciate how massive the flames were from the vantage point we got early on. But these pictures from viewers, which is now the world we live in, are some of the best pictures we have.
You can see some of the shrapnel from those exploding tanks in the street there as well. Look at that.
That I didn't see. Nice catch, yeah. Yeah, these tanks are going off, and they're like little bombs, those propane tanks, and they're littered all over that yard.
And Ellen was talking to people who know this area well, and the restaurants in the area right across the street. You can imagine if you saw this or break out and this fire start getting bigger and bigger, you just get out of there. Seeing these explosions.
Yeah, and this business, as Ellen mentioned, has been here for so long, so people who live nearby, they know this business well, and so really unfortunate to see this happen.
That's again what we're seeing. The flames there looks like the propane or gas, whatever it may be. We're not sure. We assume it's propane because it's a propane business, but that isn't just the structure burning. That is the fuel source burning.
Yeah, so it makes you wonder, is there a natural gas line that was cut or open in some way?
I mean, because look at this, you guys. That's a great point. This does not appear to be just whatever was inside of this building burning.
No.
That's way too much flame. And you would start seeing more white smoke if that was the case.
If it were a gas line, though, a Southwest gas line, Southwest would be out there capping this. They would cut it.
So
they would cut it off and stop it.
That the fuel source is still there.
And also worth mentioning right now, we don't know exactly what's going on. We are working as hard as we can to get more information on this. Everyone out there is just working as well, those crews. And Ellen McNamara and her photographer Brian, they were on their way to a media staging area, and hopefully within minutes they'll be letting us know exactly what's going on, what they're dealing with, what kind of gas main this may be.
You see that security camera that I'm sure is inoperable now with all of this going on, but there will be security camera footage that will probably show how this all started.
For sure.
Because everybody's got them now.
Yep.
Look, we're starting to see some white smoke now from this building, so maybe they're getting a handle on this one.
That's the first we've seen.
Yes. Yeah, they're really dousing this. Look at all that water coming from the ladder truck.
Yeah.
And another part, adding to this, is the fire crews do have to switch out. In this kind of heat, usually it's about every 15 minutes. And they go into the trucks that are known as rehab units, where they'll go in and they'll take water. Sometimes they'll have to get an IV.
Yep.
And they'll have cold towels put around them. And then when they feel up to it, they'll go back in. Because they're wearing 45, 50 pounds of gear, the tanks, all the turnouts, and it's a tough job.
Oh my gosh, you can imagine.
Can you imagine? Yeah.
Yeah, this is dotted with cameras. I think we're going to eventually, at some point, we'll get pictures of how this actually ignited and what it was. The guys on the ground may know whether it's propane or natural gas. They probably know, but we don't yet.
They're backing up another truck there.
Yeah.
You know, it's not out of the realm of possibility on a day like this, and also not just today, the stretch of hot days that we have had, that perhaps one of these tanks, that gas just got so intense inside the tank and just burst.
Pressure,
the pressure
That
was
is
too much.
possible. We've seen that before, certainly in junkyards, pallet yards.
Right.
Spontaneously combusting.
And I don't know about you guys, but it's, you know, having these tanks around your house this time of year for your barbecue grill and things like that is a little bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah, right.
And they're hot to the touch. I mean, you have to put on gloves to grab these things if you're going to change them out. And so a stretch of 19, 20 days or whatever we've had now of over 110 degrees, and these sitting out there in that yard, I mean, again, it wouldn't be out of the realm to think that that's what happened.
If these flames move into that yard where these cars are being kept, I mean, that's more fuel, and then this continues.
Yeah, that's a whole nother
Right, the whole other problem, especially if we've EVs sitting there in the parking lot. If you have electric vehicles, we know, we've covered it, they can burn for weeks.
Right, right. And actually, Phoenix Fire and some of the local fire agencies have come up with ingenious ways to put out those kinds of fires by putting them in a big dumpster with sand and letting them burn out. It looks like they're backing up another ladder truck.
And now you can see the cars.
We've got to have 4 or 5 ladder trucks shooting water
I think
cannon
this is
on
the
this.
4th one there now.
Yeah, this is still Phoenix, but Ellen was saying that she saw other units from other nearby cities as well coming in to help.
This is going to be all hands on deck for this, because you've got some kind of fuel source and we don't know what it is. We assume propane because it's a propane company where this started, but it could be a natural gas line. We don't know.
Yeah, Corey mentioned that the winds were pretty strong, and they are consistently blowing in this direction. They haven't switched, which is good news, because on the other side of this is that Animal Welfare League, and so if they did switch direction, that would be bad news for the things that are on the other side of where this is blowing. Probably the airport as well.
Yeah, that's one thing, is because of burning away from the airport, at least the winds rather, pushing the smoke and the flames away from the airport. They haven't had to alter any of the operations at Sky Harbor due to this. Again, it's just something that people are going to be seeing as they're landing, but the operations have continued. In fact, we've been seeing kind of a strange looking sight as the planes are coming in with the flames in the foreground and the planes in the background.
Right, business as usual.
Yes,
for
really
the,
is. Yeah.
for the flights.
It's
but
continuing.
I do want to mention too, light rail service in this area. If you're expecting anyone that's using the light rail, of course it is impacted because of this fire. So it's suspended at the 44th Street Washington station, which is right in this area. So you should know about that as well. Eastbound trains will only travel to 38th Street at Washington.
Let's take another look at the earlier viewer video. I guess we're going to go to Ellen McNamara. Ellen, where are you now?
Waiting on Captain Scott Douglas. He's going to come and give us a little bit more information. So what I can show you here is this. Check this out. So this is a propane tank, one of hundreds that are in that yard. And Phoenix Fire tells me that this propane tank almost hit their truck. So you can imagine how dangerous this firefight is, because these are basically like bombs going off and they're going in all sorts of directions. So we're going to hear from Captain Scott Douglas in just a bit. He's going to give us a lot more information about who's impacted, those buildings, the animals that we're all worried about, that parking area. There's another airport parking lot. It's called the parking spot, in fact. And we've been seeing some of those trucks, you know, the little shuttles that drive people to the airport. They're circling around because they have no idea where to go at this point. And so just a lot of people who have businesses, cars, you know, a home maybe in this area potentially, just a lot of confusion as to what do they do, because this is going to take a long time to get these flames out. So if your vantage point, we're at 40th Street in Fillmore, we're basically just northwest of where Lindsay is and the fire that is burning. We can see a number of those ladder trucks. We can still hear those explosions, but again, if you got hundreds of propane tanks, those little small ones in that yard, we're going to continue to hear them go off as the fire continues to spread.
That
so
is incredible,
we have seen not only Phoenix
Ellen,
Fire.
that picture of that tank next to you, that was
Here.
was jettisoned out from that yard.
Right here.
A couple
Right there.
almost a
Yep.
block.
Yep.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah,
Ellen,
pretty
what we've got to
incredible.
find out is what the source of this initial fire was. Was it gas line, meaning
Yep.
natural gas, or a propane line, or what was fueling this? We know they had tanks in the yard.
That's right.
But there's something else going on that's burning really in a dramatic fashion that looks like a source line, some type of source line for that yard.
Absolutely. Yep. So the public information officer is just over to my shoulder. He's getting some more information, and when he's ready to go and when all the other crews are ready to go, we will bring that to you live right here from our location. Okay?
Yeah, Ellen, we'll check back in with you in just a minute, but first we want to take another look at this video from earlier, some viewer video that was sent to us from when this fire first broke out. This was about an hour ago now. If we can take a look at that video, there we go.
Yeah.
And you can see, John mentioned they look like a main line source. Look at that. I mean, it's shooting up in the air. You can see it's so constant. There has to be a main line.
Yeah, there's something, that's not, you see the secondary explosions, which are tanks, but that is a source line somehow. We got to figure out what it is. All right, we're going to continue coverage. We're going right now into Fox 10 News at 6. Our coverage continues here on Fox 10. Big fire at 40th Street in Washington.
And here we're taking a look at the ADOT camera that we first were looking at when this fire broke out around 4:40, 4:45. And the smoke and the flames are continuing, but the flames not as intense as we were seeing earlier. But this, again, was quite the scene when the fire first broke out.
Yeah, I mean, things have really changed. Those first explosions that we saw, and we just showed you that video from viewer video that was in the area when it first happened about an hour ago now. It was consistent explosions. You saw the propane tanks exploding, shrapnel. I mean, and people reporting in the area, they could hear the explosions from nearby as well. And things right now, it's a much different story. They've got multiple ladder trucks working in this fire. You can see 2 of them right there. And I believe there might be 4 at this point. They've called in several more crews since this first started.
Yeah, 2 of them are obscured by the smoke, I believe. They're putting a lot of water on this, but I don't know what you do until they figure out the source.
That's all you can do, honestly, at this point. Now, I did get something just now from Sky Harbor Airport that they're saying there are no impacts to airport operations. The runways are still open as normal, but they did tell us that access to the west side of the 44th Street Phoenix SkyTrain, that is temporarily closed. So passengers will have to go to the station from the east. So that is important to know. We have Fox 10's Lindsay Regis on the scene, keeping an eye on this. Lindsay has an amazing vantage point across the street from where this fire is burning. Lindsay, what can you tell us?
Yeah, this fire has been burning for over an hour now. I'm here with Anthony DeWitt. Now, you were here pretty early on. You saw it happen. What did you see?
Yeah, so I was actually just driving from taking my pet to the animal hospital to get some checkups, and it's actually crazy because there's one right next to there, which could have been the one I was at, which is really scary. But anyway, I was driving home and I saw this huge ball of flame or ball of smoke, shoot up into the air, and I'm thinking that looks like near our apartment, and as I got closer, I realized it was the next street down because I live like right across the street. And anyway, I noticed that there were that Phoenix, there was like maybe a fire truck there and an ambulance and maybe one police car.
Now you got there pretty early. How many fire trucks did you see here? Any ambulances?
Yeah, there's one ambulance. There's probably maybe 2 fire trucks that had just gotten there, and the firefighters were staging. And then all of a sudden, I started hearing these loud explosions. And there's like a building right across here with glass, and I could see the glass like going back, like it was like pulsing. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen, and people were running out of the building. And then this huge flame started shooting up. I'm assuming it was like a gas line probably blew, and it was so bad, and I could even, like, it's hot out here, but I could feel the heat from that, and even the firefighters and the fire truck and ambulance even had to like get off the street and get away from it.
Now you've been standing out here longer than I have. I've heard several explosions happen. How many would you say you've heard since you've been here?
Oh my goodness, I don't know, probably 40, 50. I mean, it's I mean, I can hear them going on behind me right now, but it was probably one right after another for a solid 15 minutes.
Now, you can't go home. You're kind of blocked in right now.
So I'm blocked in.
Have you heard anything about if your electricity is out?
You know, I actually now that you mention it, I just got a call from Cox Communications, so I'm assuming that they probably did shut it off. I was told that there's like a mile radius that they've shut down in this area.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
So we're still trying to learn more about this. We have a media staging area. We have Ellen there. We're going to bring you more details, try to figure out how this started, and we'll bring you more in just a minute.
Yeah, Lindsay, thank you for that. Ellen is at the media staging area right now, and it looks like in just a couple of seconds or minutes, the public information officer is going to give an update from Phoenix Fire as to the situation that's happening right now. But here's another look from our tower camera. Again, this is 40th Street in Washington where this is happening. ADOT camera rather, and you can see those several ladder trucks are fighting this fire, and things are starting to look a bit better. You see some white smoke there on the right hand side, but still heavy black smoke on the left.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out what the source of these big flames is. We know it's a propane yard, but is it a main line of some sort, either natural gas or propane that went up that had a leak? We don't know, but there is something feeding those flames that they could not quite cap or get a handle on. And we're a better part of about an hour and 20 minutes now this has been going on.
John, we also just got an update. All staff and animals are evacuated and safe from the Arizona Animal Welfare League. As we mentioned, that was right next door, a vet clinic, and a lot of people were wondering about that, so they have been evacuated.
They got all of those animals out with
that's
this emergency going on.
Huge undertaking to get those animals out. In fact, when I called them, they said that right now they were full. I got a voicemail, but they said we're full of animals. So that would have been a huge job to get them out in such a quick amount of time. Yeah. And at the end of our 5 o'clock newscast, Ellen, I can't get over this image, Ellen showing that blackened propane tank, like the ones we use on our barbecue grills, that had, the fire department said it had flown and almost hit their fire truck like a bomb. And so that yard was full of those. So this really was a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you
fire crews and for anyone who else was in the area.
Right.
Those tanks cooking off, being propelled at least a block or more, like, you know, ordnance going off. It's really scary stuff. So the firefighters have got to be careful. They got to get people out of there. We don't know the power situation in the area. We're still trying to find out because there are power lines around there, and you probably have that involved too on one of the hottest days of the year. It was 119 earlier today. When those temperatures get going, fires break out. We see it every year. And it has been excessive heat, and you got a propane yard with a lot of flammable stuff. Who knows what touched this off?
Yeah, and Sundance Airport parking was right next to where this happened, right next to the propane business, and their building, right where the parking area is, that is completely gone. It went up in flames as well, and the cars are parked. It's a self-parking area. They're parked directly behind that building, so we're hoping that the flames haven't spread to those vehicles as well.
And when when the smoke and the flames die down a bit, we'll get a look at that situation. I can't imagine that all of those vehicles are okay after this. The flames were right next to them. But let's go now to Ellen McNamara, who's got the latest from the fire department. Ellen.
I'll do it. I can do it after in Spanish if you want. I'm going to do it in English, but if you want, I'll do it after in Spanish.
Yeah, we can do that because we're ready.
Como quiera. Okay.
We are ready.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just grabbing this.
ladder 4 to north sector.
You guys good? 12?
We're good.
All right.
Let's go.
All right.
Real quick, we're going to,
Oh, you can get that in there?
as we just mentioned,
Go ahead.
we're going to get an update from Phoenix
There you go.
What'd you bring?
North sector, go.
Talk about this prop.
All right. So,
We
hi
can
guys.
have ladder 9 adjust their stream just a little bit to the south and to the west a little bit.
Hi, Scott Douglas, Captain Paramedic, Public Information Officer at the Phoenix Fire Department. We're out here today at 40th Street and Van Buren. Crews were dispatched initially around 5 p.m. for reports of a propane plant on fire. At this time, crews arrived. They were able to establish a water supply, verified that there were multiple propane tanks exploding on scene. As you can see here, this is one of the propane tanks that exploded right by one of our fire trucks. So we have hundreds of propane tanks scattered throughout the area, hence the reason we have isolated, evacuated, and denied entry to any of the buildings in the area. At this time, crews are letting the propane tanks off gas and extinguishing a structure fire just north of the scrapyard, where also there's a scrapyard as well as the propane tank business. No injuries have been reported at this time. We do have fire investigators on scene. Once we're able to enter the hazard zone to investigate the cause and origin of this fire, crews are doing a great job to make sure that this does not spread to neighboring businesses, and we're taking a layered approach to make sure that our crews have enough opportunities to recycle and rehab in this extreme temperature. Any questions?
We know that we were over just a few streets over, and we were told that there was a very big concern about the fire spreading. We're seeing some people come out and be concerned at the smoke.
Yeah.
What is your message to them, and are you concerned that the fire can spread?
Absolutely. So at this time, if you're far enough away from the fire with this type of heat, it's important for people to remember to just shelter in place. If we need you to evacuate, we will let you know. At this time, people are self-evacuating, and that's fine if that's what they choose to do, but we encourage them to stay in an air-conditioned environment. Obviously, with smoke like this, embers can travel, so we're going to do the best we can to mitigate any form of spot fires that might turn up. At this time, we don't have any reports of any other structures on fire, and crews are doing a good job to monitor the area with the patrol to make sure that we don't have any other structure fires happen.
And you don't know the cause. Where did this originate from? Do you guys have any idea?
So the initial reports was that a propane business had propane tanks that were on fire and that they were burning. Why they started on fire, we don't know. And our investigators with the Phoenix Fire Investigations Task Force will do a great job to verify where and how they started on fire.
Can you talk a little bit about the dangers of those propane tanks exploding? Is there a concern that they
Absolutely.
could fall on people,
Absolutely.
homes or cars, damage any other?
Yeah, so we have evidence of propane tanks up to 500 yards past the ground zero where this is actually happening. So there's absolutely a concern. Our partners with Phoenix PD are doing a great job to make sure that they keep everybody out of the immediate hazard zone and the nearby area. They're using caution and hazard tape as well as securing the streets to make sure that we don't have any of these propane tanks land on anybody and nobody gets hurt.
With so many propane tanks, obviously they're exploding. Can you walk us through what the next 3 to 6 hours may look like? Is this going to be an intense
Sure.
firefight?
So what happens with these types of propane tanks is they have a bleeder valve. That allows when they catch on fire to bleed until all of the propane actually exits the bottle. The challenge here is we have very, very large, probably 400 or 500 gallon propane tanks as well that we use to fill these types of things. So we need to let those bleed out. And the concern, obviously, we don't want those to get so hot that they would explode. As long as they're venting with the fire, then they're safe. And we're doing a good job of keeping the containers cool with ladder trucks, as you can see, spraying water on those large propane tanks as well as on the structure just to the north that's on fire.
Is it possible with the extreme temperatures that we're having right now, is it possible, I know that you guys are still investigating, that heat could have played a factor in sparks?
At this time, it's too early to tell. These types of fires can start any time of year, so we really don't know. It wouldn't be safe for me to say. People have propane tanks in this type of heat all day, every day in the city of Phoenix. So we don't know that that's what caused it. We do know that the heat is playing a factor on the resources that are here, the people that live in the community, and so we do want to make sure that our firefighters are getting enough rest, water, recycle, and rehab throughout this incident, and making sure that the people as well are staying safe and out of the hazard zone.
We know that the Arizona Animal Welfare League is in the path of this. We've heard, thank goodness, that they've reported they evacuated all the animals,
Yeah.
which is great. What can you tell us about the parking? There's like a business that people park temporarily and go to the airport.
Yeah.
A lot of cars are there. Do you know anything about that?
So at this time when I left the scene, we did have a parking lot that the airport uses for traffic to their facility. There was smoke that was passing over those cars. I don't have any information on that at this time. Hopefully it's just smoke and it passes by those vehicles. I did not see any vehicles on fire when I was over there.
When we're hearing those bangs, is it one of these
Yeah.
exploding, and then that could possibly send shrapnel, things like that?
Yeah,
out?
so as you see here, this tank blevied, so it exploded, and this is where it ruptured, right? So we have hundreds of these scattered around the area, as well as very, very large ones. So there's several that are in pieces over there. So absolutely shrapnel is a concern, hence the over exaggeration on our part to make sure that everybody's out of the area and safe.
And just so I'm understanding, there you said hundreds of those bigger tanks. Are the bigger tanks a big concern if they catch fire? Have they caught fire?
They're burning right now. Yeah, we have at least 2 that I saw that were burning. So, but they are off-gassing. So as long as the fire is coming out of that bleeder valve, then we're not concerned that it's going to explode because we have water on it keeping the tank cool. So everything is going as to plan in a situation like this from our side. Now we just want to make sure that we get all of the fuel out of all of these tanks before we can go in and evaluate the scene.
We were hearing that those bigger tanks may have been as full as about 70% full.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been to this facility, so I don't know how full they were. I haven't spoken with any of the responsible parties for the business yet, but our investigators are speaking with them, so they'd have more details as far as how much fuel they could have been up to 100% for all we know. So we just need to give them time to bleed off.
How long could it take to bleed off those big
It could
tanks
definitely
like
be
that?
hours. Yeah, we could be here for several hours tonight. This might be a long campaign fire that we're going to be out here on. Phoenix Fire is obviously very comfortable with things like this. We do this every day in the city of Phoenix, especially in the summer months when things get really hot. So we're prepared to handle this incident and taking a very safe approach to make sure that everybody's safe. Did you have a question?
Yes. Any concern with the air quality? I know propane is something that people want to know.
Well, as of now, the propane's burning off, and so right now we do have smoke that's burning. So I would caution everyone to, yes, stay out of the smoke because the smoke is a toxic fume, and we want to make sure that people aren't getting that in their skin, breathing it in. Stay indoors if you're anywhere near that smoke.
We saw Tempe was here. What else? What are other agencies are here?
Absolutely. So we've got a great mutual aid partnership with the surrounding cities. So Tempe, Guadalupe. We might have trucks from Mesa. I'm not even sure. Scottsdale might be here. So all of our surrounding partners we work really well with. It's basically like one big fire department, and just to make sure that we work as a team to make sure that this goes out. We train together. We work big fires like this together, so it's like a handshake basis, first name basis when we're dealing with stuff like this. Everybody knows each other and we know what to do.
Captain, you mentioned the air quality issues. The wind is kind of shifting every once in a while. What is that radius that we could tell people if you're in this vicinity or this
I'd say
area?
if you were within 5 miles of 40th Street and Van Buren, be advised you could be dealing with some potential smoke in your area. Just try to stay out of that.
I was speaking with at least one person
Uh-huh.
and not get back to them. What would you tell those people? They're probably not going to get back anytime soon.
Sure. So at this time, if the command officers on scene have deemed that house is unsafe, then they won't let them back in. Most likely, this fire is going to be put out now. Crews are already starting to get a handle on it. As you can see, you see gray and white smoke. That means they're getting water on the structure itself. So that structure is beginning to go out. So I imagine as soon as the structure's out and these propane tanks are all managed, then those people will be able to go home.
I'm not sure if you already answered this, but how many fire trucks and staff are on the scene right now?
So before we started this interview, we were at a second alarm. So we're expecting approximately 100 firefighters here, probably upwards of 30 to 40 different fire trucks and different apparatus. We do have a command van staged behind me with command officers from Phoenix Fire, Phoenix PD, and any of the important local stakeholders that would need to be a part of this. And we're going to work with the city officials to make sure that, like we talked about, air quality, any runoff from water, things along those lines are all going to be mitigated and handled in the most appropriate way.
We're still seeing planes take off and land behind us at Sky Harbor. I know that would be up to them, but any update on that? Nothing has changed?
Absolutely, yeah. So Phoenix Sky Harbor has their own PIO, so they're going to go ahead and answer that. We've reached out to them. We've made contact with them. They understand the situation. So at this time, I haven't gotten any updates as far as what their procedures are going to be moving forward. But I would encourage you to reach out to their PIO, and they can answer any of those questions.
Captain, you may have answered this. Obviously, 115 degrees agree, is for people not living in Phoenix that aren't familiar with what happens here just about every summer. Is this the first big fire incident? Can we expect more? Can you kind of break down where we're at when it comes to these kind of commercial fires?
Yeah, absolutely not our first one this summer. Speaking of people that maybe have moved here, we do have a lot of transplant folks that have moved here from out of state, people that might be spending their first summer or second summer in the city of Phoenix. Well, this is hot and they're starting to see what happens. So big fires like this are definitely going to happen occasionally throughout the city, and we encourage everybody to manage your hydration, stay out of the heat. If you're going to be out working, people that just moved here, if you're going to be outside, do it in the early morning hours or in the later evening hours. Drink plenty of water, wear appropriate clothing as far as just a safety message. But yeah, we anticipate this is going to be a hot summer for a lot of people that are spending their first time here.
So it's more of a technical question about the business. Do you know if the main line was buried, or do you know if it was?
I don't know. My guess is it would be buried. Most of those propane lines are, but I don't know for sure. I haven't been able to get to the hazard zone and see it yet. When I got close, it was so loud that the hissing and the heat, I wasn't able to get within 200 yards of the fire. So.
How hot does a suit get inside when a firefighter
So
is wearing
our
it?
turnouts, yeah, I'm not sure exactly the exact temperature. I know that we do need to manage our work rest cycles though, because guys can get overheated pretty quickly, and our gals as well. So it's important that we make sure that our crews work for maybe 20 minutes, go through a bottle of air, then they come out, get some water if they need an IV. We check their temperatures. We make sure we monitor their vital signs as well to make sure that nobody's overheating and we don't have to send anybody to the hospital.
And is that why we have agencies from different cities coming in to help? Because there are crews that need to be recycled that need that time.
Absolutely, yeah. The multi-layered response is the answer to a problem like this. One crew or even 5 crews couldn't do this. We need to make sure that we have lots of people coming in and out, and making sure that we have all of the areas surrounded to make sure that this fire doesn't spread. Anybody else? Any questions? You want to do it in Espanol? Or no?
Yeah.
Or are you good? Okay.
Thank you,
Just right here? Stay here? Or up there?
I'm pretty sure they're gonna have
Did I get your questions good?
Well, that was great. We got some answers that we had been searching for since this fire started a little over 2 hours ago now, or right around 2 hours ago. And they said it was that propane that is now off-gassing out of those tanks. There was 2 tanks that were burning.
And the tanks are buried underground.
Yeah,
That's
so-
why it appeared to be shooting up from the ground.
So typically that's the safest way to do it. I was Googling and trying to research as that was going on. We got Ellen to ask the question, which is great. So we got that information. But yeah, so many of them, they can hold up to 1,000 gallons of propane, and they're buried underground to keep them protected from temperatures and anything, any kind of weather that would occur above ground, so they can keep the temperature regulated underground.
Let's roll one of those videos shot by one of our viewers who sent it into Fox 10. This will show you what was going on initially. You're going to see one of these 1,000-gallon tanks venting. And again, that tank we learned is buried underground. That's why we thought it was a source line of some sort that was going up. That explains it.
And the captain, you heard him say there just a few minutes ago that it's possible these tanks were 100% full, both of them, when this fire started. We've got on the phone with us Mike Vukmir, who's with Environmental Equipment Services. Mike, what can you tell us about this fire out there today? And we're getting a perspective on it now about what may have happened.
Yeah, what I'm seeing there is 2 relief valves that are on a large propane tank that are venting. What you see is the 2 stacks of flames because it's a double stack relief. What's happening is the surface area of the tank is calculated so that when there's a fire, there's sufficient venting capacity to relieve that gas so the tank doesn't explode. And so by the fire department hosing it, that's what they're trying to do also, is keep that pressure down.
By cooling
so
the
tank doesn't explode.
And Mike, is that why we were seeing such a big circumference of flames shooting from that tank, those tanks?
Well, it was the initial velocity that you saw there. So if the tanks got to 127 degrees Fahrenheit, they would have been 250 psig in pressure. That's generally where relief valves go off. So if for some reason the tanks were in the sun, had some type of heat source, and those reliefs went off prematurely, all it would have needed was a heat source.
Hey, Mike, John Hook.
Yes.
Quick question. When these things are buried underground, what could have possibly ignited this?
Underground, I wouldn't know. I'm looking at something that probably got too hot and the relief valves relieved. And then once that relieved, then you've got propane running all over the yard. All it needed to do was find a heat source.
So this is a safety system, Mike, that's in place. So if the temperature gets too hot, to keep the pressure down, it relieves itself, so to speak, so that it doesn't explode. Okay.
Yeah, if you saw one of these 1,000-gallon tanks explode all at once, I mean, the whole neighborhood would be gone.
You have a totally different, I can't think of the name of the explosion, but it's when the vapor suddenly releases and catches on fire. It's horrific then.
Oh, that's like a small, atom bomb going off. I mean,
exactly.
It is serious. Yeah, that could have decimated a neighborhood.
Correct. So everything worked correctly here.
And I know,
absolutely correctly.
We don't know exactly what may have started this fire, but we had been talking about our stretch of 20 days in a row over 110 degrees.
Exactly.
These tanks getting so hot. It's not out of the realm that could have been what caused it.
Correct, exactly. Yeah, we work with ammonia primarily, and we're looking at, a temperature of around 117, and our relief valves start going off. So a little bit different vapor pressure on the two chemicals, but similar in a lot of ways.
Hey, Mike,
yes.
It sounds like fire has no other option than to let it off gas or burn itself out. Is that right?
In this situation, either that or the tank explodes. You can't put that out. The velocity's too fast.
Yeah.
Well, then when we're talking about what happened here, Mike, how would you categorize this? I mean, it's obviously not a great situation, but it could have been much worse. We're hearing no injuries.
Oh, certainly. And the tanks didn't explode. That is what worked perfectly here. And then the fire department getting the tanks cooled down to cut that rate of vaporization down and slow the flame down.
Wow.
Mike,
perfect approach.
You have been a wealth of information.
Yeah,
very enlightening on what happened out there.
Yeah, thank you for your
Great.
perspective.
Glad to help.
We appreciate that.
You did.
Sure.
You helped.
All right.
You guys have a good day.
You too.
You too, Mike. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye-bye.
Let's go back to Ellen. Again, she was just there at that newser speaking with the PIO from Phoenix Fire. Hey, Ellen.
Hey guys, yeah, we just heard from the captain and we got a wealth of information, as you just heard from your guests too, and that's the plan here. They are going to let this burn out, and the good news is that they've really gotten a handle of this situation since we've been on the air. From about 4 o'clock until about 6:30 tonight, the smoke has really dissipated from what we saw earlier this evening, so that's the good news. But the fire trucks, they're going to keep putting water on those propane tanks. Let them, the big ones, continue to just burn out. And then again, the good news in all of this, no one was hurt. The Arizona Animal Welfare League right nearby got all those animals out in time. So I guess that would be the good news in all of this, but it is extremely hot. It's about 115 degrees right now. So those the fire crews who are here, multiple fire departments on scene, they're going to be taking breaks about every 20-15 minutes. They got that rotating shift going to make sure that everyone is healthy fighting this massive fire and just letting it burn out as it should. But from where we are, you can see that the smoke has really dissipated. Phoenix Fire doing a fantastic job. And I wanted to get over to that propane tank if I could again, but the public information officer has it. I might grab it. I'm just going to grab it really quick because I don't have very much time left. We're just going to grab it, guys, because I feel like this is just the image kind of the day that we can bring to you.
He said they flew like
this propane tank.
yards?
Oh yeah, 500 yards. Hundreds of
500
these
yards.
things, hundreds of these little bombs just going off everywhere, and that's what happened when they first responded to this. So again, there's the explosion part. And, shrapnel is flying from these things. Phoenix Fire did a great job. And again, luckily no one was hurt. But this is just one of those stories that a lot of people are going to, a lot of people have a story to tell about this story that we've been covering tonight right here.
All right, Ellen, thank you for that amazing coverage out there tonight. And we did want to point out, too, that the fire crews out there during that sound that we were getting the news conference there, he said there could be smoke for about a 5-mile radius around this fire, and that this is something that they could be battling all throughout the night, trying to let those tanks off gas, and now also putting out the fires that resulted from that at this place next door, this airport parking.
Yeah, as we heard from our expert Mike just a short time ago, this is really all they can do at this point. And he said everything worked properly. So those propane tanks that carry so many gallons of propane, they may have been full and they were just relieving themselves.
Yes, and he told us too, pouring all that water on there wasn't just to put the flames out, but also to cool down the tanks.
Yes.
So that was a very enlightening interview from Mike. We appreciate that, kind of painting a picture of what exactly happened out there. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us tonight for coverage of this fire here on Fox 10. And of course, we will have much more. We'll keep you updated online as well. Again, nobody hurt out here tonight. That is the good news. Thanks for watching.
Just you watch the best. I'm not gonna watch. So, I guess you want to meet me where I park?